Well, a very good morning, Warriors. Today is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2026. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. It is time to wake up the warrior. Hey, let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked up and realized a chunk of your life passed and you're not exactly sure what filled it? I don't ask you this question to be dramatic because it may be nothing went wrong at all. You were just living, handling responsibilities, doing what needed to be done in the moment. Days moved into weeks, weeks turned into months, and at that time, everything felt reasonable. But now looking back, it feels like it went by lightning fast. See, that's how life happens for most people. You don't lose time all at once. It doesn't just crash or blow up. You give it away quietly, minute by minute, decision by decision. You choose what's easy, familiar, or comfortable in that moment. And then one day you realize an entire season of your life is gone. You're still writing a chapter of your story when you should be 5 chapters further along. And of course you care, because you never stop to ask yourself what your time is really worth. See, when you start paying attention to the things that matter, not in the moment, but projecting into the future, you stop wasting time. I was talking to somebody this morning. It wasn't a serious conversation, just kind of a normal conversation. And he said something that we've all said before. Where does time go? And what hit me wasn't the question, it was the timing of it, because in my mind, I'm thinking we're already in February 2026. It seems like it was just Christmas. Where did the last 31 days go? Here we are in February already, a whole month gone, never to be seen again. It wasn't stolen, it wasn't taken, but it was spent. And if most of us are honest, you couldn't tell or remember what you bought with it. So we're going to make a transition today because last week we talked about time as a productivity tool. And it wasn't theory, it was practice. We talked about one of my favorite life hacks, extending time by accomplishments, not extending time in years, because none of us have the power to extend our own lives. We don't know our expiration date, but we can accomplish more. That was last week. But what we were doing is we were using the same block of time to maximize growth in all 4 stories of your life: your career, your relationships, your faith, and your health. Now, you guys probably know I like to listen to powerful learning and motivational podcasts every morning after my workout in the sauna. That's one way that shows up. It also shows up as training your body while strengthening your discipline and turning otherwise dead time into time that you develop. See, we all have the same 24 hours. We just all get completely different returns on that time. And it matters. What we talked about last week matters because productivity answers a useful question. How do I get more done? But it never answers this important one. Why does this time matter at all? Because here's the truth, if like most people, you may be avoiding. You can be productive and still waste your life. So that's the shift that we're making today. Last week was about using time efficiently to maximize output. This week is about treating time like it's worth something to value. And why that's important. Because if time has no value to you, you always spend it carelessly. And a careless present leads to a dismal future, no matter how efficient you become. So this is where productivity stops and value begins. Today, we're talking about the cost of time, how most people pay the price sometime in the future. We're not talking about how to manage time, not how to optimize your schedule, but why time has to be treated like what it actually is, a non-renewable asset tied directly to future happiness or despair. Because how you value time determines everything ahead for you. It shapes the quality of your relationships, the depth of your experiences, and ultimately your legacy, the strength of what you leave behind. And eventually it decides whether you look back with peace or realize you let the clock move way too fast and get away from you. So let's answer the question of the day. If your life ended exactly as it's currently being lived, not how you intend to live, not what you plan to change later, but exactly as it is right now, would you feel like you invested your time well or spent it without intention? Now, again, I'm not trying to be dramatic. This is another practical question because time doesn't wait for you to show up and become clear. It keeps moving whether you're deliberate in your actions or not. So you don't even need to answer that yet. Just hold it for a few minutes because everything we're about to talk through is going to bring the answers into focus. So all of this leads to where awareness turns into action. If you don't understand what time actually costs you, you'll keep acting like you have more of it. You'll assume there's room to procrastinate, room to drift, room to circle back later. And these assumptions quietly shape every decision you make. So instead of staying in awareness, let's move into clarity. I'm going to walk you through all of this one layer at a time. And each of the following points builds on the last. Each one reveals something different about how time is shaping you, whether you notice it or not. So stay with me. Let's fix this. Here's point number one. The way you use time exposes your values. People lie about what they care about. And it's not always on purpose. Sometimes it's just self-deception. You know who never lies? Father Time. You don't need a mission statement to know your priorities. You don't need a vision board to clarify your values. You just need to document where your time actually goes. Now, more on this in either a future episode or maybe even a training that I'll do. Okay, I'll say that again. You don't need a mission statement. You don't need a vision board. You just need to document where your time actually goes. Because your calendar tells the truth, your mouth tends to avoid. Think of it like this. Your calendar is your belief system in motion. I hope you wrote that down. That could be an entire podcast episode. Now, hold on, because this is where things get a little uncomfortable. You can say family matters, but if your kids only get whatever energy is left after your phone, your email, your work, and your exhaustion time, then you're already telling the truth about your priorities. You can say health matters, but if movement is optional and convenience decides your habits, time is telling the truth. Guys, I'm not trying to guilt you, but we do have to be honest. Time doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to who you are being. And that's the gap most people never close. You want to value time without having an identity that exemplifies powerful movement. You want better outcomes without better standards. And that never works because the body doesn't negotiate priorities and signals. It's just the vessel that follows them automatically. Your body spends time in alignment with the mind's commands, and the mind takes its cues from the soul's identity. So if time feels wasted, scattered, or constantly gone, the problem is not the clock. It's a weak identity spending it away. And until that's addressed, time will keep exposing what really matters. Whether you like it, you show it or not. Point number 2. How often do you consider that time with people has an expiration date? Look, this is where things stop being theoretical, because time doesn't shape productivity. It shapes relationships. And unlike work, unlike money, unlike missed opportunities, time with people has a closing window. Time with your kids, when they still want to spend it with you, is not unlimited. Ask the empty nesters. More time with your parents is not guaranteed. Time with your spouse cannot be taken for granted. There are versions of people you love that only exist for a short season. Young kids don't stay young. Teenagers don't stay home. Parents don't stay strong forever. And most people don't miss those moments because they're careless or cruel. They miss them because life is loud. You're busy. You're tired. You're handling responsibilities. You assume there will be more time later. And in the moment, that assumption feels reasonable to you. But nothing feels urgent and nothing feels wrong until that season ends. Now, you're not going to like what I have to say next, but time doesn't repeat seasons. You don't get a do-over on presents that you postponed. That's why presents can't be treated as passive. You don't stumble into it. You have to choose it. You choose to put the phone down. You choose to slow the pace. You choose to be fully there, even when you're tired. I know it's hard. I'm right there with you. But when that choice isn't made, nothing explodes. It just disappears quietly. And years later, people never say, I wish I worked one more hour. They say, I didn't realize that that was the last time. Point number 3. Have you run into this yet? Unvalued time always turns into regret. Nobody gets to the end of their life and says, I wish I had scrolled more. That's not how regret works. Regret isn't created by working hard. It isn't created by effort. It's created by delay, by waiting, by postponing, by saying someday instead of being decisive today. Most people don't fail at life. They just simply defer it. It's called procrastination. And that's why retirement hits so many people harder than they expected. Because retirement doesn't just remove work, it removes distraction. For decades, life is loud. Deadlines, responsibilities, schedules, the noise of the world. And that noise gives people cover. Cover from the things they didn't build. Cover from the conversations they avoided. Cover from the health they kept pushing off. Cover from the purpose they said they'd get to later. But when retirement shows up, the noise shuts off. And what's missing becomes impossible to ignore. It's the relationships that were never deepened. A healthy lifestyle that was postponed too long. Experiences that were delayed until all of your energy was gone. And a sense of purpose that never got defined. And later, finally arrives. Empty. This is why so many people retire and feel lost. It's also, by the way, why so many people retire and feel broke. They didn't run out of time at the end. They wasted it in the middle. Time doesn't punish you loudly. It doesn't send warnings. It doesn't create emergency signals. It just simply waits. And one day you realize the window has closed silently. That is the cost of unvalued time. And the last point, how you value time shapes who you become. Time doesn't just pass by, it builds. Every single day, time is depositing something into your identity, whether you're paying attention to it or not. There's no neutral ground. If time is wasted, identity weakens. If time is respected, identity compounds and becomes a force working for you. See, this is where people misunderstand discipline. Discipline isn't about being busy. It's not about packing your schedule. It's about being intentional with what? Of course, your time. What you allow, what you protect, what you say no to. See, high value humans don't rush through life. They don't drift from one distraction to the next. They don't numb themselves just to get through the day. They move with purpose. They use the time they have to accomplish. Not because they're perfect, but because they're clear with what they're trying to accomplish that day and what's at stake, by the way. They understand the hierarchy at play. The body executes time, the mind allocates time, the soul gives time meaning. See, when the body is trained, it follows through. When the mind is disciplined, it chooses wisely. But when the soul is anchored, all of your decisions align. And when those three are working together, time stops feeling scarce. Not because you have more of it, of course, but because you're finally spending it on what matters. Now, let's bring this to real life and wrap up. Today wasn't about squeezing more into your calendar. It was about recognizing what your time is actually doing to you or for you, and what it's quietly taking when it's not respected. Time shows you what matters, whether you admit it or not. Time with people comes in seasons, not guarantees. Regret doesn't come from failure, it comes from delay. And identity isn't formed in big moments, but in how you spend ordinary days. If you don't choose what your time is for, it will always get spent for you. And that's when people wake up wondering where it all went. So this is the question I want you to carry with you. If this year continues exactly as it's being lived right now, not how you plan to adjust, not what you say you'll change later, but exactly as your time is currently being spent, who will you be when the noise finally quiets down? When the distractions fall away, when the calendar slows, when there's nothing left to blame? Not who you hoped to be, what your time actually built. Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul. Wake up the warrior. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Stuck in your mind, fighting shadows of a story.